In a tense congressional hearing, Pam Bondi faced a relentless barrage from lawmakers pressing her on loyalty, independence, and the rule of law. From dodging questions about election fraud to avoiding commitments on preserving January 6 evidence, her evasions raised a chilling question: if the president demands it, will she obey? And in the shadow of a Supreme Court decision granting absolute immunity, the stakes for American democracy have never been higher. It all began with a seismic legal shift. The Supreme Court's ruling in Trump v. United States declared that a president has absolute immunity in certain core areas of responsibility, and the Justice Department was one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
Not a summary by you sitting here. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case. And sitting here
today,
Senator, 72% of Americans
please, I only have 7
lost
minutes.
faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question.
Brought to me.
You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is
Are you aware
horrible.
of a...
Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not looked
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president has
We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has called for this.
You know what we should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
The crime rate in California right now is through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I
No,
won't
I'm just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power.
investigation,
So let me ask you another.
like you did
let me-
leaking your
let me ask
colleague
you,
Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question, if you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in
No,
Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went
That's
as an
not my,
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my
campaign.
question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
so you
Let me
look at-
finish. On a case-by-case
Okay,
basis.
okay, good.
And I
let me
abhor violence to police officers.
follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President, I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
And
for
will
the
you be able to
pardons, as well
will
as
you
the
be able to
ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am
Of course
asked
you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the
Hey,
president?
can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I
is-
would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first
mislead
day?
this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You were
another question.
censured by
It will
Congress, Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so reckless.
It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do you
department.
see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're
Why do
frightened
you
now?
have
I can't
difficulty?
believe this is even.
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe
Why do you
you're
have
asking such a
difficulty?
question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I know that you are pleased that we are moving to the end of round one, and we appreciate your being here.
Chief Justice John Roberts and the majority saw it as a matter of constitutional interpretation, but Justice Sonia Sotomayor saw something far more dangerous. She warned that this new shield of immunity would lie around like a loaded weapon, waiting for the wrong hands to pick it up. That warning set the tone for the hearing. If a future president could commit crimes through the Justice Department without fear of prosecution, the only thing standing in the way would be an attorney general willing to say no. Senators wanted to know if Pam Bondi would be that person. The first test came quickly. Would she agree to investigate special counsel Jack Smith simply because the president wanted it? The president had openly said Smith should go to jail, but Bondi refused to give a clear yes or no. Instead, she said she hadn't seen the file, hadn't reviewed the investigation, and wouldn't make a commitment without facts. On the surface, that sounded reasonable. But the more she spoke, the clearer it became that she wouldn't rule out acting on the president's wishes, even without evidence. That hesitation set off alarms. The next scenario came just as fast. This time it was about Liz Cheney. Would Bondi acknowledge whether there was any factual basis to investigate her? Again, the senator pressed for a simple yes or no. Again, Bondi danced around the answer. She called it hypothetical, even though the question was about her current knowledge, not future action. This second dodge made the pattern harder to ignore. She wasn't just avoiding a legal commitment, she was avoiding saying out loud that political revenge has no place in the Justice Department. That led to the truth to power test. Could she tell Donald Trump that he lost the 2020 election? This wasn't about legal filings or classified briefings. It was about her willingness to state a basic fact. Bondi refused to say it. She accused the senator of trying to play gotcha politics. The senator tried another approach. Was there massive fraud that changed the outcome of the 2020 election? Once again, no straight answer. She spoke about what she saw in Pennsylvania, instead of addressing the core question. The message between the lines was clear. She wasn't prepared to confront the president with inconvenient truths. The next test wasn't about the past, but the future. Would she advise the president against issuing blanket pardons to people who had attacked police officers on January 6? Bondi condemned violence against police in general terms, but fell back on the safe phrase case by case. She wouldn't say outright that pardoning hundreds of violent offenders in one sweep was wrong. For senators, that was another red flag. Then came one of the sharpest exchanges of the day, the question of preserving January 6 evidence. Would she commit right there in front of the committee and the public to ensuring that none of the evidence in that investigation would be destroyed under her watch? Most would expect a quick and confident yes. Bondi wouldn't give it. She said she would follow the law and consult with ethics officials. The senator pointed out there was no ethical reason to destroy such evidence, so why not make the commitment? She didn't budge. The refusal to answer only fueled speculation about why such a promise was so hard to make. It was at this point that Representative Adam Schiff took the floor. He made it clear this wasn't about personal loyalty to Trump. Presidents can choose loyal advisors. The real problem was when loyalty to a person conflicted with loyalty to the Constitution. Schiff reminded Bondi that every Trump-era attorney general or senior official eventually faced that conflict. Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr, Jim Mattis. They all learned that the clash between presidential demands and constitutional duty was inevitable. Schiff warned her that it would come for her too, and that what she did in that moment would define her career, her reputation, and her service to the country. Schiff also drew from his own state's struggles. In California, wildfires had left communities devastated. Arson, looting, and price gouging followed in the chaos. Schiff asked if she would be willing to go after even the most powerful players, including oil companies, if they were found to be gouging consumers. Bondi mentioned her experience handling the BP oil spill, but quickly shifted back to broader concerns about general crime and looting. She didn't directly answer whether she'd take on corporate giants if the evidence pointed their way. By now, a contrast had fully emerged. Schiff's questioning was crisp, rooted in documented facts, and laser-focused on principles. Bondi's answers were broad, often evasive, and centered on avoiding absolute commitments. Schiff wasn't just probing her positions, he was exposing the deeper question: would the Department of Justice under her leadership serve the law, or serve the man in the Oval Office? For viewers, the dynamic was striking. Schiff spoke in defense of institutions, of norms, of the foundational idea that no one is above the law. Bondi defended flexibility, personal loyalty, and the president's discretion. The divide wasn't just partisan, it was philosophical. It was about whether the rule of law stands on its own, or bends to political will. The stakes became even clearer when the discussion zoomed out to the broader crisis in American democracy. In the past decade, the guardrails that once protected independent institutions have been steadily eroded. The Department of Justice has been pulled deeper into political battles, and the line between legitimate legal authority and political weaponization has blurred. Bondi's testimony showed how easily that blurring could continue. Schiff's approach offered a roadmap for resisting it: be relentless, be factual, and demand accountability. His persistence in the face of deflection sent a signal to both Congress and the public. The fight isn't just over individual policies, it's over the ethical foundation of governance itself. Bondi's stance reflected a growing trend in her party: loyalty to a single figure as the central political value. Her unwillingness to reject political retaliation, admit basic facts, or commit to preserving critical evidence all pointed toward a Justice Department that could be more tool than institution. For those watching, the implications stretched far beyond this hearing. The nation is heading toward another pivotal election, and the questions on display that day will not disappear. Will the DOJ operate independently? Will its leaders tell a president no when the law requires it? Or will presidential immunity become a shield for unchecked power? The exchange also served as a warning. The erosion of democratic norms doesn't always happen with grand gestures or sweeping legal changes. Sometimes it happens in small refusals, the unwillingness to say yes to preserving evidence or no to political vendettas. It happens when truth becomes negotiable and commitments to fairness are replaced by hedging. In the end, Schiff's questioning was about more than Pam Bondi. It was about the soul of the Justice Department and the integrity of the rule of law. His message was simple: if no one can say no to the president, then the Constitution itself is at risk. This hearing was a snapshot of that risk in real time, a moment where viewers could see, in sharp relief, the choice facing the country. Whether to accept a Justice Department shaped by personal loyalty or to demand one grounded in impartial law and democratic principles. That choice will echo in the months ahead, in courtrooms, in campaigns, and at the ballot box. Because in the end, this isn't just about politics. It's about whether the values of truth, accountability, and courage can survive in the face of power. And if we want them to survive, it's going to take all of us staying informed, speaking up, and refusing to look away. So if you care about holding leaders accountable, if you want to understand the battles shaping our democracy right now, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for the next deep dive into the stories that matter most.